The fryer hissed behind me, the smell of grease clinging to my skin. My back ached from the double shift, but I kept my head down, wiping the counter like it was the only thing keeping me upright. The bell above the door jingled. I glanced up, just long enough to see 3 men in expensive suits walk in. They didn't look hungry. They looked entertained. Richard led them. I didn't know his name yet, but I'd never forget his face. The kind of face that smiled without warmth, that smiled to test how much pain it could cause. They ordered, laughing at nothing, their voices loud enough to fill the whole place. I passed them their trays. That's when it started. "Hey," Richard said, his voice dripping with mockery. "You ever think about your life? Imagine being my age and still flipping burgers." Tragic. His friends laughed like it was a comedy club. I swallowed. The words hit harder than I wanted to admit. My hands tightened on the counter. I told myself to let it slide. I needed this job. I forced a neutral tone. "Enjoy your meal." That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Single quotes T. Richard leaned closer, his cologne sharp, suffocating. "Come on, don't be shy. What's the retirement plan here? Fries until 50? Or maybe you'll work your way up to mop duty." The laughter cut through me like knives. I stared at the floor, but his voice followed. Sharp, relentless. My coworker Jamal whispered near the soda machine, low enough for only me. "Don't let him get to you, man." But it was too late. My chest burned. My silence was feeding him. Richard smirked, waiting for me to crumble. Look at him, can't even talk back. Pathetic. Something inside me snapped. I lifted my eyes and locked onto his calm steady. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. "At least I know the taste of real work," I said quietly. The room went still. His friends shifted, the laughter choking in their throats. For a second, Richard blinked like he hadn't expected words from me at all. Then he barked out another laugh. Louder this time, covering his crack. "Oh, he talks. Look at that. Fries. Got a voice." I didn't flinch. I kept my gaze on him, steady, controlled, but inside my stomach twisted. His laugh wasn't just noise. It was a hand pressing me down, reminding me where he thought I belonged. He waved his hand dismissively, like brushing me off. "Don't worry. Someday, maybe someone will promote you to ketchup duty." His friends chuckled again, but weaker. This time, like even they knew the joke was running thin. I wanted to scream. I wanted to slam the tray back into his chest. Instead, I wiped my hands on my apron, my heart pounding. "Your food's getting cold," I said. My voice didn't shake. That was my only victory. Richard studied me like I was a strange insect that had twitched when he wasn't expecting it. Then he laughed again, but it sounded different now. Hollow. As they walked to their table, Jamal muttered, "Man, you're stronger than me." I'd have lost it. I didn't answer. My throat was tight. Stronger, maybe, or maybe I was just too tired to fight. From their booth, the men kept glancing back, whispering, laughing. Every sound of it scraped against my chest. I told myself over and over, "Don't break. Not here, not in front of them." But inside, I was already breaking. I turned back to the counter, hands trembling, pretending to clean. Every stroke of the rag was a prayer. A prayer that one day I wouldn't be the joke. That one day I'd wipe that smirk off his face, not with anger, but with truth he couldn't laugh away. And in that moment, I made a quiet promise to myself. I would never forget the sound of his laugh, because it wasn't just a laugh. It was a reminder, a wound, a spark. The laugh that cut through me. The smell of burnt oil still clung to my clothes. When I pushed through the break room door, my manager was already waiting for me, arms crossed, lips tight. I knew what was coming before he opened his mouth. "Close the door," he said. His tone wasn't a request. I did. My palms still stung from gripping the counter too hard earlier. He shook his head. "You can't be mouthing off to people like that. Customers like him. They own this world. Keep your head down." My chest tightened, mouthing off. He called me pathetic in front of the whole place. "You think I didn't hear?" His eyes narrowed. "But you answered back. That's the problem. You let it escalate." I felt heat rise in my throat, so I should have just stood there and taken it. "Yes," he said flatly. "That's what this job is. You smile, you nod, you let it slide." I laughed, bitter. "Do you ever had someone spit on your dignity like that?" His silence told me everything. He didn't need to. He wasn't the one carrying the target on his skin. "Look," he said after a beat, softer now. "You need this job, don't you? Rent doesn't pay itself. If that man complains, corporate won't care what he said. They'll only ask what you did." I clenched my jaw. I wanted to tell him I'd rather starve than bow to men like Richard, but I also wanted to keep the roof over my head. The war between my stomach and my pride raged inside me. Before I could answer, Jamal pushed the door open, still in his apron. "Man, you good?" The manager frowned. "Break room's full." Jamal ignored him. "Don't let that clown's words stick, bro. He ain't worth it." I exhaled, shaking my head. "Doesn't matter if he's worth it. He still got to me." Another coworker Rosa slid in behind him, arms crossed. "So what? You're just supposed to take it. That's what they count on. That will stay quiet." The manager groaned. "Oh, here we go." "No," Rosa cut him off. "You want us to smile while they laugh in our faces. One day somebody's going to snap." "Somebody," I muttered. "Or me." Jamal looked at me hard. You snapped a little tonight. I saw it in your eyes, but you didn't let it out. That takes strength. Strength, I repeated, felt more like weakness, like I swallowed my own voice just to survive. The room fell quiet. The manager finally muttered, "Clocked back in when you're done," and left. Silence lingered after the door shut. Rosa touched my arm. "Don't let him kill your fire. They want you tired, quiet, invisible. Don't give them that." I nodded, but the words slid off like water. I couldn't shake the image of Richard's smirk, the sound of his laugh. It lived under my skin now, itching. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, half a cup of cold coffee in front of me. My sister Naya leaned against the counter, arms folded, studying me. "You're quiet," she said. "I had a night," I muttered. "You always have nights," she shot back. "Talk," I told her. Not every word, but enough. The laughter, the effort, pathetic, the way my manager scolded me like I was the problem. My voice cracked once, but I didn't stop. When I finished, Nia slammed her hand on the counter. "You keep swallowing their spit. One day you'll drown." Her anger lit something in me, but fear snuffed it out just as quick. If I fight, I lose my job. If I stay quiet, I lose myself. What choice is that? Her eyes softened, but her voice stayed sharp. The choice is whether you let them define you. You think silence saves you, but it only saves them. I looked down at my hands, grease-stained, rough, tired. I'm so damn tired of choosing between survival and dignity. Naya came closer, resting her hand on my shoulder, then stopped choosing. "Find another way, but don't you dare let their laugh be the last word." Her words sank deep. I didn't know what another way looked like, but for the first time all night, I felt the faintest spark of something that wasn't just pain. Something closer to resolve. I sat in the lobby with my resume folded too many times, my palms damp from clutching it like a lifeline. The receptionist smiled politely, but I could feel the weight of her eyes flicking over my uniform pants, still smelling faintly of grease. No matter how many washes I'd put them through, doubt my name was called. The conference room was too bright, the air thick with cologne and professionalism. 3 people sat across the long table. I swallowed, trying to keep my voice steady. One of them, a woman with a clipped tone, started, "So, tell us about a time you had to handle conflict under pressure." Conflict. My mind immediately went to Richard's laugh, the way it scraped against my pride. My throat tightened, but I forced the words out. I had a customer insult me loudly in front of everyone. I wanted to fight back, but I knew if I lost my temper, I'd lose everything, so I chose calm. I didn't insult him back. I let my presence do the talking. The man in the center leaned forward. "And how did that work out?" I hesitated. It burned inside me, but it also showed my coworkers that silence doesn't always mean defeat. Sometimes dignity speaks louder than rage. The woman scribbled something. Another interviewer nodded. "We're impressed by how you managed conflict with dignity. That's leadership." The words almost stunned me. Leadership, me. For so long I'd been made to feel like the lowest rung. Hearing it framed like power felt like a door cracking open. Then the actual door opened. Footsteps echoed against the floor. A voice I knew too well broke the air. "Sorry I'm late," Richard said. The sound froze my blood. I turned slowly, and there he was, the same tailored arrogance, the same smug grin, though it flickered when his eyes swept the room and landed on me. He frowned. "Wait, you work here?" My chest rose slowly, deliberately. I met his stare head-on. "No." My voice was calm, steady, cutting through the tension. "I run here." The room went silent. The interviewers glanced between us, confused by the charge in the air. Richard's mouth opened, then shut again, like he was trying to place me but couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. One interviewer cleared his throat. "Mr. Cole, you're here for the assistant regional position, correct?" Richard forced a laugh, but it sounded brittle. "Yeah, of course. Just didn't realize you were expanding the applicant pool." His eyes flicked back to me. Sharp searching, I felt the sting of his words, the attempt to put me back in my place. But this time, I didn't bend. "Funny thing about pools," I said, leaning forward. "Some of us learn how to swim while others only know how to float." His jaw tightened. The woman interviewer glanced at her notes. "Let's continue." Questions rolled on. Each answer I gave felt heavier than the one before, not just because of what I said, but because Richard was forced to sit there and hear me. "What would you say motivates you?" another asked. "Respect," I said. "Not the kind that comes from money or titles. The kind that's earned. The kind you can't fake with a laugh." Richard shifted uncomfortably. His knee bounced under the table. "And if an employee disrespects you, remind them that respect is a two-way street. If they can't walk it, they won't walk here." Richard's hand tightened on the table. He knew I was talking to him, even if I didn't say his name. When the interview wrapped, the lead interviewer smiled. "Thank you. We'll be in touch soon. Your perspective is refreshing." I stood, shook their hands, then turned toward the door. For a second, I hesitated. I could feel Richard's stare burning into my back. I looked at him once more. His eyes were wide, his face pale beneath his confidence. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just held his gaze long enough for him to see what he had missed that night in the restaurant. The man standing in front of him was never small, and as I walked out, the weight on my chest felt a little lighter. Not gone, but lighter. Word spread faster than grease in a fryer. By the time I walked into the restaurant for my last shift, half the crew already knew. Manager, huh? Rosa grinned as I tied my apron. Guess we'll have to start calling you sir. Jamal snorted, please. He's still clocking in with us tonight. Don't let him get a big head yet. Their teasing didn't sting. For once I didn't feel like the butt of the joke. But beneath their laughter I caught something else. Pride, hope, maybe even relief. Like my small step up was proof that one of us could climb. The doorbell jingled. My stomach dropped before I even turned. Richard. He walked in like he owned the air. Same smug stride, same tailored confidence. My chest tightened. I thought I'd left him in that interview room, but here he was, grinning like nothing had changed. Well, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Still here. I figured with all that ambition you'd be too busy supervising napkin folding. The crew stiffened. Rosa muttered under her breath, not again. I kept wiping the counter. Order something or move along. Richard. He tilted his head, amused. Oh, so now we're on a first-name basis. Careful, people might think you're somebody. The laughter from his friends came right on cue. It felt like déjà vu, the same sting, the same performance. But this time, something was different. The air in the room didn't bend toward him. It bent toward me. Jamal stepped forward, arms folded. Funny, huh? He's about to run the company you're begging to work for. The words hit like a dropped tray. Richard froze. His smirk faltered. His voice cracked before he forced it back into arrogance. No, that's no. He looked at me, searching for denial, for anything that would make the truth less sharp. I met his stare. My voice was calm, almost soft. Laugh now, Richard, just laugh. The silence in the restaurant was thick. For once his friends didn't laugh. Even the fryer seemed to hush. He chuckled, but it was hollow, jagged. This is a joke, you my boss. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. My silence did the work for me. Richard's face flushed. He turned to his friends. Come on, this place is pathetic anyway. He stormed out, the door slamming behind him. The crew burst into low murmurs. Rosa smirked. Man's laugh finally broke. Jamal clapped me on the back. About time the tables turned. I forced a small smile, but inside I was shaking. The power shift wasn't triumph yet. It was fragile, like glass between us. One crack and it could shatter. Still, for the first time, I realized something. His laugh didn't own me anymore. The boardroom smelled like polished wood and cold ambition. My first day in the corporate office, and already the walls felt heavier than the fryers ever did. I stood outside the door, listening before I walked in. Look, racism isn't policy, one executive muttered. It's perception, optics. We just need better messaging. My fists curled. Optics. Messaging like lives were just bad press. I pushed the door open. Every head turned. Morning, I said, sliding into the seat at the head of the table. Their eyes lingered, some surprised, some doubtful, like they couldn't quite reconcile the man in front of them with the resume that earned me this chair. The CEO's assistant shuffled papers. We were just discussing community concerns. Community concerns, I repeated. That's what you call it. One man cleared his throat. We're not dismissing anything, but we have to be realistic. Racism isn't in our handbook. It's not written policy. It's not perception. I leaned forward, my voice sharper than I intended. Perception is reality when you're the one bleeding. The room froze. I could feel their discomfort like heat pressing against me, but I didn't let the silence close in. You want to talk about optics? Try standing behind a counter while someone laughs in your face, calls you less than human, and everyone else pretends not to hear. That's not optics. That's life. A woman near the end of the table shifted uncomfortably. We're just trying to protect the brand. Then start by protecting the people who build it, I shot back. We need new hiring practices. More diversity in management. Training that doesn't just tick a box but changes the way we operate. They exchanged looks. No one spoke. Their silence was louder than their words. The door opened. Footsteps. Late, heavy. Richard, he strolled in like he owned the place. Tied to bright, smirk, ready, until his eyes landed on me. His stride faltered. The smirk cracked. Wait, he whispered. Not to the room, not to anyone but himself. He's really the boss. I didn't move. I didn't blink. Yes, I said quietly. I am. The room shifted. Executives coughed. Papers shuffled. Anything to break the tension pulsing between us. But Richard tried to laugh, but it came out thin. Guess they'll let anyone in here now. My chest tightened, but I didn't take the bait. I let his words hang, empty, while I kept my focus on the room. We're not here to debate whether racism exists, I said firmly. We're here to decide if this company is going to do something about it. The man across from me sighed. Do you have actual proposals? Yes. I slid a folder across the table. Partnerships with black-owned suppliers. Transparent promotion tracks. Zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. Not just written, but enforced. Silence again. Thick. heavy. They scanned the papers like they were holding live wires. Richard muttered under his breath. Unbelievable. I caught his eye. My voice dropped. Steady, controlled. What's unbelievable, Richard? That the man you mocked is sitting here, or that you can't laugh your way out of it this time? His face flushed. He looked down at the table. The rest of the meeting blurred objections, excuses, numbers thrown around like shields, but I kept pressing. Every word I spoke wasn't just policy. It was a wound I refused to let scab over without healing. By the time we adjourned, the silence in the room wasn't avoidance anymore. It was acknowledgement, quiet, heavy, necessary. As we filed out, I caught Richard's whisper again, almost too soft to hear. He's really the boss. And for the first time, I let myself feel it. The shift, the echo of power. I'd barely closed the boardroom door when I heard him behind me. Hey, Richard's voice. I kept walking. Don't walk away, he said. Faster now, his shoes tapping against the polished floor. We need to talk. I turned the corner, hoping he'd let it go. He didn't. He caught up, stepping in front of me, blocking my path. Listen, he said, lowering his voice. You can't seriously still be mad about that night. It was harmless. My jaw tightened. Harmless, yeah. He gave a weak laugh. Come on, man. It was a joke. You know, banter. Everybody laughed. Why are you holding on to it? His smirk looked thinner than usual, but it was there. That same mask of confidence he wore like armor. I stared at him, my stomach twisted, but I didn't look away. Say it again, Richard. Call me pathetic. Look me in the eye this time. His smirk wavered. What? No, that's not say it. My voice came out low, sharp. Pathetic, like you said then. He glanced away, shifting on his feet. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. I stepped closer. You meant it exactly like that because that laugh, that word, it wasn't a joke. It was power, yours over me, and you loved it. He swallowed. You're twisting it. No, I said. I'm remembering it. Word for word, laugh for laugh. You don't get to rewrite it now just because you're uncomfortable. For a moment the hallway was silent except for his shallow breath. He dropped his gaze, fiddled with his cufflink like it might save him. Finally he muttered, I was drunk, it was stupid. Forget it. Forget it. I laughed. Bitter. You think I had the luxury of forgetting? I carried that laugh home with me. It followed me into the break room, into my kitchen, into my sister's face when she asked why I looked broken. You called me pathetic, Richard, and the whole damn room agreed with you, and you want me to forget. His face flushed. His arrogance cracked like glass under pressure. Look, I didn't know you'd end up here, all right? If I'd known, there it is. I cut in. If you'd known I'd matter to you one day, you would have kept your mouth shut. That's not an apology, Richard. That's self-preservation. He tried to smile again, but it was forced, trembling. You're making this bigger than it is. No, I said quietly. Steady now. This was always big. You just never thought it would be big for you. For the first time, he had no comeback. His silence wasn't the confident kind anymore. It was hollow. I stepped past him, my shoulder brushing his as I walked by. He didn't stop me this time. Behind me, his voice came thin and shaken. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't look back, because I knew now his mask was slipping, and nothing he said could cover what was already exposed. The staff meeting buzzed with quiet conversations as people shuffled into their seats. I sat at the head of the table, notes in front of me, though my hands weren't on them. I didn't need notes today. I needed control. Richard sat 2 chairs down, his arms crossed tight, jaw locked. I'd felt him watching me since the moment I walked in. I started, we're here to discuss the new hiring policies. This company can't thrive if we only pull talent from the same pool. We need diversity at every level. That means giving people opportunities based on merit, not just connections. Murmurs around the table. Some nods, some tight lips. Then Richard slammed his hand down. This is ridiculous. The room went still. He leaned forward, eyes sharp on me. You're only here to make me look small. I breathed slow, steady. My chest wanted to rise faster, but I wouldn't let it. You laughed at me because you thought I was small, which one of us looks smaller now. Gasps rippled. The silence after was heavier than his outburst. His face flushed. This is favoritism. You're pushing policies that only help people who look like you. Reverse racism. That's what this is. Its stomach twisted, but I kept my voice calm. Reverse racism, that's your excuse. Let's be clear. What you call favoritism is simply fairness. What you call reverse racism is the first time you've ever had to share space. Someone down the table muttered, that's true. Richard snapped his head around. Shut up, you're all scared to say it. But you know I'm right. He's prescriptive for everyone, and other people's using his sob story to get ahead, and you're eating it up. I felt the words like blows, but I didn't flinch. My story isn't a sob story, Richard. It's survival. And unlike your laugh, survival doesn't need an audience. The room held its breath. One executive cleared his throat. We've reviewed the data. The stores with diverse managers have higher retention, stronger sales. These changes aren't charity. They're business. Richard's voice cracked. No, this is about him. This is personal. He jabbed a finger toward me. You've hated me since that night, and now you're trying to destroy me. I leaned back, folding my hands. I don't need to destroy you. You're doing that yourself right here, right now. A staff member, a woman from HR, spoke up. Enough, Richard. You've lost. His face crumpled. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. His arrogance melted into something desperate, almost pitiful. I could feel everyone's eyes shifting between us. The power wasn't mine alone. It was in the silence. In the way the room had stopped bending toward him. Richard slumped back. In his chair, his hands shook against the table. For the first time, he had nothing to say. I closed my notes, even though I hadn't used them. Meeting adjourned. As the staff filed out, whispers followed me, not him. The sound of his laugh haunted me still. But tonight it was replaced by something new, the sound of his silence, and it was louder than I ever imagined. The auditorium lights buzzed overhead, too bright, too sharp. Rows of employees filled the seats, murmurs rising and falling like waves. This was the company-wide forum, my chance to show what leadership meant. My chance to prove I wasn't just a token face in a suit. I stepped up to the podium. The whispers quieted, but I could feel the tension pressing against me, waiting to see what I'd do. And then the back door slammed open. Richard's face was pale, his movements frantic. He pushed his way down the aisle, ignoring the glares, the whispers that followed him. When he reached the front, he didn't wait for permission. He stood there, raw desperation dripping from him. "Just please," he said, his voice cracking. "Don't ruin me." The room went silent. Every eye turned toward me. My chest tightened, but I didn't look away. "You ruined yourself," I said evenly. "The moment you decided I wasn't human enough to respect." He flinched, like the words had struck him harder than any fist could. "I was stupid," he stammered, "drunk, angry, whatever excuse you want, but it wasn't what it looked like." I leaned forward. "It was exactly what it looked like. You laughed at me because you thought my life was a punchline, and everyone heard it." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Richard's hands shook at his sides. "I've lost everything already," he said. "My reputation, my respect. You've won. Isn't that enough?" Won. The word stung, as if this had been a game, a contest, and not a wound I'd been carrying like a scar pressed against my chest. "This was never about winning," I said. "It was about surviving." He dropped his head, muttering, "I didn't mean it like that. We felt the anger rise, hot and sharp. "Then tell them what you meant. Tell every person in this room why I should believe you." He looked out at the sea of faces, co-workers, executives, staff who'd once laughed along with him. His lips parted, but no words came. Silence, heavy, crushing. I turned back to the crowd, my voice steady, though inside my heart was pounding. This is the cost of silence. This is what happens when we let laughter excuse cruelty, when we let dignity be optional. It starts as a joke, but it leaves scars deep enough to follow you home. Eyes locked on me. I felt the weight of their attention. Some nodded. Some looked ashamed. A few looked defiant. I breathed in, slow. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm not here to humiliate him. I'm here to make sure no one else has ever laughed out of their humanity." The words echoed, filling the silence. Richard's knees seemed to give out. He slumped into the front row, his head in his hands. For the first time since I'd met him, there was no smirk, no laughter, no mask, only collapse. I let the silence sit, not to shame him, but to let the truth sink in. Then I closed my notes, though I hadn't needed them. This company has a choice. We can continue treating racism as bad optics, or we can confront it as the wound it is. I know where I stand. The question is, where do you? The applause didn't come all at once. It started small, hesitant. Then it grew, wave after wave, until the room shook with it. I didn't smile, not yet. My chest still carried the weight of every laugh, every word, every silence I'd been forced to swallow. But for the first time, I knew I wasn't carrying it alone. The fryer hissed the same way it always had. The bell over the door still jingled, the smell of grease still clung to the air. Weeks had passed, but stepping back into the restaurant felt like stepping into an old scar. A young worker behind the counter glanced up, barely older than 18. His eyes widened when he recognized me. "Hey, you used to work here, right?" I nodded. "Yeah, I used to." He leaned on the counter, curious. "I heard you're a big boss now, corporate and all that. People talk." I let out a quiet breath. The title never felt as important as the journey. He hesitated before asking, "How'd you do it? How'd you go from here to there?" His question landed heavier than he knew. For a moment, I saw myself in his tired shoulders, in the grease on his apron, in the way he tried to hide how small this place sometimes made him feel. I looked him in the eye. By refusing to stay where someone else's laugh tried to keep me, he frowned, then nodded slowly like the words were settling in. "So you didn't let them decide who you were?" "No," I said. "I decided, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt." He bit his lip. "And what if they keep laughing?" I felt my chest tighten with memory, but my voice stayed steady. "Then you make sure your silence isn't surrender. Sometimes the loudest answer is the life you build in spite of them." He smiled, small, uncertain, but real. Guess I needed to hear that. I patted the counter once, feeling the familiar rough edge beneath my palm. I needed to hear it once too. And one day, you'll say it to someone else. As I turned to leave, the bell over the door jingled again. The sound was the same, but I wasn't. For the first time, the laugh that once cut through me would echo in my head. It was gone, replaced by something quieter, not laughter, not silence, triumph.